Thank you. Any more discussion, or do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see. Next item, discussion of completion of contract 2010-12, McFee Park Phase 2.
Yes, this item has been placed on your agenda at the request of Christopoulos Kennedy Construction. You'll recall that the board awarded the contract for McFee Park Phase 2 to Christopoulos and Kennedy early last year. We held a pre-construction meeting and issued a notice to proceed in April that more or less set the completion date as October 12th of last year. As some of you may be aware, there is still work being done on the project. It is not quite complete yet. Due to numerous delays that Christopoulos and Kennedy had late in the year, we were not able to open the playground facility at this portion of the park until December 22nd. And that was due to several safety issues that have been pointed out. And the fact is we could not open it up. We could not open Phase 2 because that playground facility is the central portion of the park. But that was opened on December 22nd. However, work continues out there. The contract points out that for every day beyond completion date, which was October 12th, for every day beyond that, that work must continue. Liquidated damages are to be assessed at $1,000 per day. Like I say, work has not been completed out there as yet, but in order to more or less err on the side of the contractor, since we did open Phase 2 of McFee Park on December 22nd, staff would recommend that we limit the liquidated damages only to the span in time between the October 12th completion date and December 22nd. I do know that Christopoulos and Kennedy is here tonight. Obviously, they have someone, a spokesman for them, and I'm sure they'll have some comments.
I'd like to address the board.
My name is Rick Hollow. I'm an attorney. My address is 410 Montbrook Lane, and I am here on behalf of Christopoulos and Kennedy this evening. It's a little difficult to address a situation which is founded upon an exercise of discretion and judgment. I'm not talking in a vacuum. I've been out and looked at your park. If they're uncompleted items, they would have to be relatively minor, at least to my view, after having seen it. But this contract was for $1,563,000, if I remember correctly. And the penalty assessed by the town of Farragut against Christopoulos and Kennedy up to the date of their substantial completion notification, which was contained in an email sent to Christopoulos and Kennedy on December 22nd of 2010, would be $71,000, or 4.5% of the entire contract. Now, what is that for? Mr. Smith has made reference to safety issues. The safety issues, as I understand it, fall into three categories. All of them arose as a result, I believe, of a walkthrough conducted by a TDEC representative in the early part of November of 2010. Mr. Smith, if I'm wrong, please correct me. This walkthrough by TDEC in the early part of November of 2010 was almost a month after the stated completion date of the contract by its terms, which was 180 days, extended by 1 day to 181 days. So the contract period had expired by its terms when this walkthrough, the first walkthrough, I believe, that a TDEC individual did of this project. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
There was no way that she could do a walkthrough until it was somewhere near completion.
I understand your position, sir, but I just said, was it the first date that they had done a walkthrough?
That's correct. It was
Okay.
November 19th,
All
I
right.
believe.
So on November the 19th of 2010, they did the initial walkthrough. And at that initial walkthrough, 3 areas, as I understand it, were identified as needing attention. The park, if you've been there and you know what I'm talking about, the playground area of the park has a surface made up of rubber mulch material. This rubber mulch material was in place, but according to the TDEC interpretation of the ADA requirements, it wasn't of sufficient height, because TDEC took the position that despite the fact that this play area is circumscribed by a concrete walkway and is bisected by a concrete walkway which allows anyone to access the play area itself, that is, the implements that you get up on to play, the various play stations, that despite that, there still needed to be handicapped access across the rubber mulch. So by placing that requirement on the contractor, that injected a new element into the mix, in that now Christophilus and Kennedy was required to compact and remulch that area, which they did. That was area 1 of the safety concerns. Area 2 of the safety concerns actually drops down into subcategory A and subcategory B, and we'll call that the play implements themselves. There is apparently a requirement in the law that there must be a 6-foot linear separation between the terminus point of some play apparatus and some structure. And according to the TDEC interpretation given on the 19th, if you've been out there, you'll know that as you walk from the parking lot toward the play area, there is a slide that you can see that comes down. It's a two trough slide, plastic slide. And if you face the slide to the left or to the right of the slide, if you're coming down it, there is a power pole, there's a pole which holds light. The way the slide had been configured by the subcontractor who built it, it came down and made a gradual turn to the right as you're going down, or to the left as you're facing it. At the terminus point of that slide, the linear measurement between it and the pole was about 5 feet 9.5 inches. That is about 2.5 inches short of the 6-foot minimum. So for that reason, the TDEC people said that doesn't satisfy us. Now, I'll leave it to somebody else to determine whether that is in fact a safety issue or not, but that's the way it is. In order to correct that, Christophilus and Kennedy had to order an entirely new slide, which had to be produced specially for the project, which was done. The other safety issue involved what some people call monkey bars, or I call an overhead ladder, that you can do hand over hand, and it's at the opposite side of the playground from where the slide is located, and it terminates in 2 vertical posts with crossbars. Where the 2 vertical posts with the crossbars are located there was originally, as designed by the manufacturer of the play equipment, a platform that was placed about 6 inches, was it, above, 6 to 7 inches above the level of the mulch, attached by brackets to the 2 vertical posts, and that the purpose for that platform was so that as you came off the bars, if you wanted to let go, there would be the platform down there that you could lower yourself onto, and you didn't have to go all the way down to the mulch level. That was the design. Now, that was a generous platform. That was in violation because the edge of the platform was closer than 6 feet to the sidewalk. I don't know what safety regulation, I mean, I understand the regulations, but those were the 3 safety areas that made this playground unsuitable for children to use. And as a result, it delayed the work completing that part of the project for about another 30 days, while the new parts were fabricated and installed by the subcontractor. The solution to the slide was to make a straight slide instead of a curved slide, I think. The straight one out there now. The platform issue was addressed by removing the platform and replacing it with a ladder, so that a vertical ladder, so that when you come off the end of the overhead ladder or the monkey bars, you can swing your feet out and get on the rungs of the ladder and let yourself down. Now, the purpose of this discussion and the other items, there were other items. I think some of the items were, some of the vegetation was in the wrong location. Some shrubs were planted ahead of where other shrubs should have been planted, and they were juxtapositioned there. There were questions of whether enough shrubs had been put over some areas. There were issues with regard to how tight the bolts were on the PlayStation. Not anything that would be substantial from the standpoint of that project, at least to our perception. This delay, however, continued to trigger $1,000 a day in penalties, and that totals $71,000, as I said, 4.5% of the price of the project. In today's market, that's more than the profit of the contractor. Now, what we ask you is, it's all discretionary with you. You can do whatever you want to do within this venue, and whatever is done to address that will have to take place later, if at all. But I just ask you to consider that, to consider the fact that this total area out there, I don't know how many acres it is. Is it 5 acres? I've heard various figures, 5 acres, 7 acres, somewhere in that neighborhood. Considerable amount of space. And if my computations are right, and if I do the square footage right, then the area, the total area of the playground is about 2,000 square feet, which is about 0.1% of the total area of the project. Now, there was nothing about the 2 parts of this supposed unsafe playground that would have precluded the use of the remainder of the playground or the remainder of the park. Yet, it was the decision to keep the whole park cordoned off, put a chain across the road so that no one could have access to it, so that you couldn't use the pavilions which had been built, you couldn't use the restroom facilities which had been built, you couldn't use the walking trails which had been built, you couldn't park in the parking area which had been built, and by the way, that's a pretty nice looking parking area, whoever designed it. It should be a model for something. You have pavers of one color for the parking area and pavers of another color to mark the lines between the parking spaces. Beautiful, beautiful. I think you're to be complimented for it.